This time coming from Mark Stein, him saying that the Lakers are interested in a two-way wing like Andrew Wiggins. So directly naming him, but not saying that he's the only two-way wing they're interested in, saying that they're interested in a player like him, you know, kind of the skill set and archetype that Andrew Wiggins is, a 6'7", 6'8" two-way wing, both a good offensive and defensive player that is a legitimate two-way player. And I think that's really the key word here with it, two-way, meaning that he's productive both offensively and defensively, which is a little bit different than 3-and-D in my opinion. When you think of the term 3-and-D wing, you think of a guy that shoots at least 35% from 3 and is a plus defender, but in my opinion a two-way player is a little bit different, compared to a 3-and-D wing, which again simply needs to be a 35% plus 3-point shooter, not really anything else offensively, and doesn't have to be a great offensive producer, and then a plus defender. That's a little bit different than two-way wing. In my opinion, to be a legitimate two-way player, you have to be productive offensively, not only the 35% plus from 3, but then being able to at least be able to create your own shot or some of your own offense in some kind of way, being around in 7 to 10 point per game plus kind of scoring option, capable of being a 4th or at least 5th option offensively. That's kind of what I think for a two-way player. A guy like Andrew Wiggins, who put up about 18 points per game last season, even as a 3rd or 4th option can average between 13 to 17 points per game, like he showed with Golden State. Throughout his time with Golden State from 2020 to 23-24, averaging 16.5 points per game, roughly 5 rebounds per game, 2 assists per game, shooting 46.8% from the field and 38.3% from 3. Now, I'm not saying that a two-way player has to do that much. Definitely don't have to be a 16 point per game kind of option, but they do have to be, again, a 7 to 10 point per game kind of option, efficient, both from the field and 3-point line, and can at least do something like being a decent scoring option, playmaking option, and simply being productive and able to play both on the ball and off the ball a little bit. That's in my opinion what a two-way player actually is. So my bad for kind of going on a tangent there, but that's how I would describe it, and that does happen to be what the Lakers are looking for, which I do happen to agree with. I mean, if you take a look at their current roster, they don't have much two-way ability. I mean, they've done a decent job at adding guys like Marcus Smart and Jake LaRavia who can be two-way players. Unfortunately, I wouldn't say they are every time on the court and that they're very consistent with it. Jake LaRavia being more consistent offensively, Marcus Smart being more consistent defensively, but they're not quite two-way options that can be relied on to be two-way players in every game and every season. So apart from them, you got guys that are productive on one end of the court like a Rui Hachimura or Jared Vanderbilt in my opinion. Vanderbilt obviously being productive and consistent defensively, but not offensively. Hachimura being consistent and very productive offensively, but not so much defensively. And that's kind of the fatal flaw with their current roster in my opinion. Still a very good team and definitely can be a top 5 seed in the West in my opinion. But if they hope to make a deep run and maybe even hoist up the Larry O'Brien trophy, then I think they need some two-way ability and a little bit more two-way ability on their team. And well, that's kind of where it comes back to here with Andrew Wiggins. That's kind of the best and most logical option that is and might be on the trade market. We've heard about it and have heard many different reports about him, kind of like I referred to before, none of which are very reassuring and not very optimistic in my opinion. I mean, from the asking price for him, reports saying that the Miami Heat and Pat Riley want up to a first-round draft pick, plus 1 and maybe 2 more impact players with him. One report saying that the Miami Heat were open to trading Andrew Wiggins, but only if they got an instant impact player and a first-round draft pick before 2028 in return for him, which would obviously be very difficult and legitimately impossible for a team like the Lakers, who currently have only 1 first-round draft pick that's tradable at this current moment, that draft pick being in 2031, so that wouldn't qualify for that reported asking price, or for a different asking price, this coming from Jovan Buha, saying that the Miami Heat and Lakers were in trade negotiations and did have talks about Andrew Wiggins, but that they reportedly wanted Rui Hachimura, Dalton Knecht, and a first-round draft pick with them just to get Andrew Wiggins, which would obviously be a pretty hefty asking price. And then if you look at the reports from Miami Heat reporters, this one coming from Barry Jackson, saying that, per source, nothing presented to the Heat on Wiggins has been enticing, and the plan is to currently keep him, barring something unforeseen. Then for a follow-up report from Miami Heat reporter Anthony Chiang, saying that the Miami Heat will move forward with Andrew Wiggins on its roster for the start of next season, saying quote-unquote, they want to see what this mix will look like. So whether that's a bluff or not, and they're simply trying to up the asking price for Andrew Wiggins, they appear to be doing a pretty good job on it, and you have a pretty firm hand with it. They're not going to trade him for cheap, not to a team like the Lakers who, despite it being a perfect fit for their team in my opinion, they want a pretty hefty asking price for him. So with that in mind here, is he the only option and the only two-way wing that's on the market, or potentially could be on the market, that would directly fill that need for their team? You know, I think he'd be the best fit for it and probably the most productive fit for it. Yes, again, with the three-point shooting, defense, defensive versatility, even the scoring ability, and is a productive offensive and defensive player on the court. I think it would be a great fit, but then again, the asking price is simply not there with him. Wouldn't it be worth it for a guy like Wiggins, who, despite being very productive, is 30 going on 31, so is a little bit beyond that Luka Doncic timeline, quote unquote. You know, guys that would probably be more around the age of 25 to 29 would be a better fit. Then the contract that would come with him isn't a terrible contract per se, but also isn't a great contract in my opinion. Making roughly $28.2 million this season, then having a player option for $30.1 million next season. A little bit overpaid in my opinion. Not a terrible contract again, but if you're trading for that, you probably don't want to give up a ton for it, given that there is possible regression with him. The fact that he might not be worth that contract, and if he's not worth it, then he wouldn't have much trade value after you acquire him, which well, obviously wouldn't be a good thing. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I'll greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.